Hi everybody, this is Caroline Sotheby and welcome to Up, Down, and Around Town. Well, for a lot of you people that just finished with this weekend, you either went to the Mount Carmel Festival, you either saw the old timers play their vintage baseball, or you also went down and congratulated the 1986 Wyandotte Mount Carmel girls basketball players that finally got an award for being state champs back then. And with me right now is an old, friend, I think.
I'm a friend.
Right, from
we're
back
friends.
when we started at the early beginning of cable. Now, I had just talked to you before we came on, and Bob Whitney was the original director at the time. And he contacted you, and you sort of, what did you first start with?
Well, my first exposure was pretty much as anyone else. You turn on the channel and there's this message, looking for cable volunteers. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. That's what I'm studying in school. So I rang up the studio and said, hey, I'm a student. Can you use some help? And it's like, sure, come on down. And I participated in, I believe it was the first coverage of the 4th of July parade, July 4th, 1984. Was camera operator, shoulder cam, Ikegami 730, about weighing 3 times more than that thing there, on my shoulder, but I was 22 at the time. And we did our production. It was not live. It was what we call live to tape or tape delay. But it was the first such coverage of what is an annual event in Wyandotte. And I had a ball. And it pretty much solidified, at least in my mind, that I was on the right track in terms of my course of study. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this is cool. I could keep doing this. So I kept doing it.
You know, first time I met you, remember the graphic machine we had originally was only 16 pages?
Graphics machine is really sort of an exaggeration, but sure, yeah.
Yeah, and getting ready to put the scores in for a local sports wrap-up, and you came in at right around the art fair time, and you kept on editing and trying to get the right timing of that monkey. Do you remember that one?
Wow.
Yes, that was a long time
That
ago.
was a promo that I shot as
Yeah,
part of an internship project I was working on. Yeah, I might still have that somewhere.
yeah. But that was, I mean, the first week I'm watching you do this, and the second week I'm back at the graphic, and you come back and you're still trying. I said, I hope he gets that monkey doing the right thing. But those are my first beginnings, and all of a sudden, you become a director too.
Yeah. Within, well, I started in I think September of '85. Was here for 10 years, and I was just a kid out of school. I was just off the turnip truck, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, okay, you're in charge of the studio, and it's like, wow, overwhelming, but at the same time exciting.
Yeah.
Intimidating, but a challenge, and doing something for my community, meeting some really nifty people. It turned out to be a great first job for someone just out of school, and in many ways, for me anyway, we're very nepotistic at Eastern. I'm now teaching at Eastern Michigan University. But coming out of the program, and this is '84, it wasn't as strong as it is today. So I was able to learn a lot on the job and just continue to develop professionally as I worked.
Yeah.
Through the help of volunteers, through the help of a guy named Bob McDowell, who was an engineer at Channel 4, who was my mentor for a lot of things. Kitty McDowell's husband. So a very formative 10 years for me, filled with a lot of fun, good times, and good work. I really felt we did good work.
I think, like Barbie even said, we experimented a lot. You gave us the basics. We landed up trying many things and found out, hey, it worked. And then we got confidence in ourselves, and we kept on doing things. I mean, even let's face it, when Clinton came into town, it was almost a 3-hour production. We had people on the street. There were camera people, couldn't even see because the sun was so hot that day. But you had Kenny and Mary going out and trying to get people to be interviewed. They'd call, hey, we got somebody here. Okay, get the graphic. I mean, it was fun. Didn't realize it wasn't not only going into Wyandotte, it was going out. And Jack said, hey, we saw you on. You did. If we knew that, we probably would have been shaken and everything else. But it was the idea. I think you guys gave us enough knowledge, practice, and confidence that you can do what you've been learning. And we got to thank you for that.
Well, I think we blazed a lot of trails in the sense that, yeah, you're right. We did some basic stuff, and then you guys would come back and say, "What about this? You want to try this?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do it." And you know, with the strong core of volunteers that we had, it's like we could throw an assignment out there and see that it was done, and we started breaking into live programming, live parades, live council meetings, of course, municipal service commission meetings. I felt one of the many things I took away from this, one of the things I was proudest of, was doing live election returns.
Yeah.
And I forget what the year was. I think we did it a couple times.
Yeah.
And we weren't just live from the studio with Ken Bergoski and Ann Ronco. We had Ferd Keller live at
Jack
City
was
Hall,
there.
and Jack.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're going to go down to City Hall now and see what's going on down there and get some. And then we had people at the precincts, our guys, our gals, calling in the tallies.
Yeah.
And we could throw them up on the CG, and it's like, this is really what we were meant to do. It's not, nothing against the Herald or anything like that, but it's not picking up the Herald 2 days later. It's like, bam!
Right.
This is your mayor, these are your council people, and you get to know that before midnight, and that's when I had the most fun.
Yeah.
Because it was as close to, well, it was real TV as we could get.
Yeah.
But there were other live things we did. I remember doing, we did live from the German festival. And there was the dedication of the golf course was a live event. And we had it set up in such a way so that we could plug our truck into anywhere in the city and just start doing live events.
Wasn't that fun?
It was a blast. I loved it. A lot of stress. It's like, okay, here I am. It's 5 in the morning, and I'm on Biddle Avenue. Not a soul in sight, but I'm plugging in the truck. Here come the volunteers. It's like they're right behind me, and it's like, yeah, let's do a show. And bless you guys all. It's like you were always ready to step up.
We were the little vultures, like
no, you were there. You were there, and that epitomizes the concept of service.
Is that
That's what it was all about. It was service to the community.
And that's why I think I have a strong hold of keeping the programs. It's history. It's back. We interviewed people that are no longer with us. I mean, we used to go to the rowing boat tournaments out there on the river, and now they don't do that anymore. It's it's not as big as it used to be. Remember, it used to be a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Now, if they're lucky, they might have it on the Saturday and maybe a little bit of a Sunday, but most of the days, it's only one right now. So that's fallen by the wayside. I mean, look with our Waterfest that we talked about, how many times that we went through the whole week with a camera, getting everything, editing, and made a big production at the end of the Waterfest weekend. So those are things that we learned and we had confidence in doing, and it was fun.
And another critical concept is the idea that, okay, you've got your local 2, 4, and 7, the big 3, and then of course cable came along, but you still, or at least rarely, could turn on your television and see your town. And what has always been special, and still continues to be special about this city, is the philosophy behind municipal services: water, electric, power, that's the same thing, cable, and you stuck to that.
Yeah.
And so even in the days of cable franchises, we're talking the 80s here, we're talking
Yeah.
the Cable Act of 1984. And you remember, we talked about this the other day, there was a time when there were small television studios all the way
Yeah.
downriver.
Yeah.
There was Lincoln Park, there was Southgate, there was Trenton, there was Taylor.
Yeah.
All that stuff has gone away with a few exceptions. First of all, they were required to provide them by law, and then when that law went away, the studios kind of went away, but Wyandotte held on to hits. And because Wyandotte was serving a single city, you could narrowcast the programming to just Wyandotte. Even with United Cable and the others, they were a little broader. Southgate, Taylor.
Yeah.
But Wyandotte was just Wyandotte. So you could sit down in front of your television, turn on the TV, and just see your city, which is really one of the purest manifestations of the original philosophy behind the television broadcast spectrum, is that to provide people with access to their community, their towns, and your towns, and you stuck to do that. The city, in its wisdom, has seen fit to keep the facilities, in moving from
There.
Elm Street to here,
Here.
upgrading the council chambers facilities. That's great stuff. Not every city can say that they have that. So who's hot?
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, one thing too, if we have visitors that come from outside, especially maybe Brighton or that aren't familiar with the city itself, they're surprised to find out we have it, and they, as coming for to be a guest or something or anything, they're surprised. Even the Detroit River, you got a beautiful frontage over there. Yeah, they come in, they marvel at, wow, we got to go see these things. So we do have a nice place. We're right off the Detroit River. We still have access to all your expressways and so on. So people can come in and see us. Art fair always helps. That you know that yourself. Or Third Fridays, that used to be real great. People would come. I don't know how they're doing now, so I don't go down there much.
I
But
just remember art fairs and how much fun it was and how crazy it was. And we started doing them live, and the one year the art fair was blown away by a storm that just ripped down Biddle Avenue. And I remember Pam Porter ran out with a camera, got a lot of footage. And so the last thing you saw on the last show of the week was Biddle and carnage. It was in pieces. And it's like, that's part of it too. That's part of the history.
have you ever heard about her? I mean, where has she gone?
Pam's in California.
Is she still? Yeah?
Yeah, when she moved out there, and then I moved out there, we sort of flipped roles.
Okay.
Because when she lived here, I gave her a job. When I moved out there, she gave me a job.
Oh,
So
really?
she and I worked together at E! Entertainment Television.
Okay.
So
All right.
when I lived in Los Angeles, I worked on Talk Soup and E! News Daily and
Okay.
and all these shows on the E! Network. Pretty much using this format here that
Okay.
we did. So yeah, we've been in touch.
Okay, great. Things have passed through all these years. You stayed here 10 years, you said. You went down to California then.
Down I went.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
whichever
yeah.
direction. Okay. So for some people that didn't know you then, what did you actually go there and do?
To write,
Okay.
and that's what I did. When I first moved out there, I acted in a few commercials. I worked for E! Entertainment Television. Then I wrote for several shows on the Sci-Fi Channel, Sliders. I wrote some cartoons for Warner Brothers Animation. So pretty much fulfilled my dream
Okay.
where that was concerned, especially writing for Warner Brothers cartoons, writing for Superman and Batman. That was a thrill.
I
And,
bet. And then all of a sudden, you gave that up.
I didn't give it up. Life just changed. We had
Changed.
children. We came back, and it was time.
Okay.
And so when I came back, I found myself in a position to be teaching at my alma mater, Eastern Michigan University. It was kind of a weird happenstance. we were back for a visit, and I decided to have lunch. I asked one of my old professors if we could get together and I could sort of pick his brain about academia, and he said some words that changed my life. He said, well, come work for us. And I'm like, and I ended up at Eastern and started off as a full-time lecturer, and have worked my way up to a full professor, and I'm running the program.
Okay.
So it's, in many ways, it's gone full circle, because a lot of the things that I brought to this, I got from my education, and then the experience that I added to that, I piled on top, and have been building the program ever since. And we're still in a state of flux. Working on some big projects right now that'll mean the fusion of our radio station, our television services, all under one roof. We're bringing together the newspapers. We're creating a media hub, and hope to make our program one of the preeminent ones in Michigan.
Okay, that's through EMU then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so how far have you gone in and given your expertise?
How far have I gone?
Yeah.
Blood, sweat, tears. I always take what I've done before, what I've experienced, and bring it into
Okay.
what I'm doing. And that includes time spent here, that includes time spent in Hollywood. I try to bring as much of that into the classroom. So as when I'm giving a lecture, back when I had a meeting at Universal Studios, and all of a sudden they go, what? You mean you've been there? Well, yeah, that's what I used to do. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm teaching this. So what some would construe as war stories, I actually utilize as examples to illustrate what is waiting for them
Yeah.
when they get
Or
out the doors.
possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Well, there's book learning, there's experience learning, but you also bring to the game this and this.
Okay.
Heart and character. And then you should carry that into every experience, every opportunity that you have. Always with an eye toward getting better. How can I get better? How can I get better? I do that now. I look at my daily experience. What can I do different? What can I do to be better today? So it doesn't end at a certain point unless you let it.
Well,
And if you,
yeah.
So I tell my students, you always bring yourself into your job, it's your career. And there's, especially in something like this where there are that many of them, i.e. students, that many jobs.
Yep.
So you have to be doing it better than the next person, because you're always
Or keep
in
on
competition.
and on and on.
And by the way, when you walk out the door of a university or a high school, no one's waiting to give you a job.
No.
You still have to
Apply.
to prove yourself. So
Yeah.
I try to bring that as much into the equation as possible. It's not about just the facts
No.
and the terminology.
And you can't just get a job just because you were learning something. You have to, like you said, you got to put your heart into it. You have to experiment. You have to try and see, like we had to at one time. And yet, we really don't have degrees because we didn't have time to go.
And here we go full circle, and that's exactly where you come into this, because what you bring to the table is your dedication and your heart. And you've been doing this, and I'm talking about you, since 1984, and it's like, wow. You do this for free,
Right.
and you're still doing it. What's the matter with you? No,
Well, you know what? I mean, after Jack passed away, a lot of people said, "Why are you going to quit?" And what else was there for me to do? I mean, this gives me an outlet. I talk to people. It's enjoyable. I put my little date. Okay, you got this and this show. Well, like I said, I'm up to 4 programs,
That's crazy.
like a dummy right now.
But and you made coming to work fun. It's like, what kind of joke does Jack have for us today?
Yeah.
Probably something I can't tell someone, but that's okay. We love it. And it's just, plus, there was a reliance that I developed in a number of you. You, Jack, Kenny, Ferd,
Yeah.
Barb, Kevin. I knew why you were there and that you were always ready to step up. It was a selflessness that you guys exhibited and executed. And I was always a little reticent to ask too much. But even if I asked a little too much, you stepped up and did it anyway. And it's like, wow, you know, I'm the guy getting the paycheck, but you're not.
That's okay.
Least I can do is buy a breakfast or something like that.
Okay. All right. Now that you're here and you're starting a new term coming up, what do you have planned? What kind of programs are you going to concentrate on?
Well, my normal courses, first of all, is an intro course, which covers, you know, this stuff, what we're doing here. I teach screenwriting because that's what I did in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always fun to bring my experiences into the classroom for that. I'm doing something a little new this year, an advanced course that has students becoming part of, we have an affiliation with ESPN. Eastern Sports is covered by ESPN3, it's streamed live.
Okay.
And the person who's in charge of it is a former student of mine, the engineer is a former student of mine, and we're crewing it with our regular students.
Oh, really?
So it's a chance for them to do something that potentially millions of people, maybe thousands, millions of people will see, rather than a class project we're going to screen in front of 20 students.
Okay.
I like to impress upon them, coming out of the gate, we don't do projects. We don't do school projects. We do productions. And the stuff you're going to be doing is going to be seen, streamed live. That's one unit. But I'm also trying to embrace the newer technologies. It's not that new, but we do green screen productions, which is, you know, blue screen, green screen, chroma key type stuff. And one of the things that I enjoyed doing when I was here was bringing performers into the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Faye McGinnis and Mountain Echoes, and that was a hugely popular program. Yeah. It was a step beyond the talking head paradigm that we're doing right now. And then we decided to start bringing rock bands into the studio, and a lot of high school students, as well as our other volunteers, would participate in those. And we had some pretty crazy times. We'd rock the studio on a Saturday afternoon with fog machines and flash pots, and it was a means of taking this equipment and being creative with it. Mm-hmm. The big kids version that I tell my students would be like watching something like Dancing with the Stars or The Voice or all these other, or these live shows that Fox is doing, like Grease Live. That was amazing. So I'm trying to get them to take the basic tools of a studio and push them as far as they can go with them. Be creative. Give us some fun camera angles. Do some fancy zooms, some fancy dollies. And that's always a blast to do. Until the time when the people in the office next to the studio come pounding on the door. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It's too loud. We're creating. Be quiet.
Yeah, creating. Hey, before I forget, I had to bring this because that was Diane's portrait of us. You, of course, were
half the size.
Yeah. And you know what? She came pretty good at the facial expressions. I mean, it came.
There's the old
and
set.
Lori's in the back and Barb's in the front. And of course, I'm off to the side around the table. But those are memories, and that's something that we can keep for a while. Maybe we'll put it up on the wall next to.
Oh, absolutely, you should.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Keith, thanks for coming.
Has it been
I know you've been busy.
a full show already? Have we done a full show?
Almost.
Wow.
See? How about that? We didn't know what we were going to talk about. You probably didn't know.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. You take care. Have a good season.
You too.
And if something should pop up, and you'd like to come back on, let us know.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend too. Okay. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Up, Down, and Around Town. Okay.